BioPharma Inc. trades on the OTC Pink sheets under the symbol RGBP. It's a biotech company focused on developing innovative treatments using autologous cell therapies, RNA and DNA-based immunotherapy, and small molecules in the immune-oncology and autoimmune disease space. Happy to welcome President and CEO David Koos and Senior Scientific Consultant Harry Lander. Welcome, gentlemen. Happy to have you back today.
It's good to be back. Excited about things that are rolling along. So we want to get into kind of bringing everybody up to speed on everything.
Perfect.
Excellent. So we'll begin with, I've gotten quite a few questions regarding status on funding and the questions of the vehicles that we want to use. Why it looks like we're going back to toxic convertible notes, which the notes we're signing now are not toxic unless we let them go to a point where they can be converted. But we have a game plan, so we're just about ready to file an updated Reg A offering. And the idea is that near term, we wanted to raise enough capital that we could get into phase 1 clinical testing. But as we have gotten into this whole situation, it ran across a potential source of funds for us from this one fund that buys Reg A stock, and they can do somewhere around $100,000 a week purchasing from us. And of course, once you do the Reg A, you're going to do it at a fixed price, which means that we should have the ability to not only move forward rapidly on the clinical phase 1, but pay off any notes that are outstanding that have rights of conversion that could be deleterious to shareholders. So the goal is still to get rid of anything convertible, even though on a near-term basis, we have taken some money in that is convertible, but we have a game plan and a solution to that. I think that the goal, of course, is to make sure we get into phase 1 as quickly as possible at this point. And the only thing holding us back is making sure that we have all the financing in place, that we don't get down midstream and feel like we have to stop everything all of a sudden. That to me seems like it's very important to address that issue. So I think, so Harry, from a standpoint of funding, it looks like we need 105,000, which we have already raised more than that to get started. And it looks like to finish the study is going to be somewhere in the 550,000 range. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. That's spot on.
Okay. So in addition to the funding, we need to also address the issue of, I think, orphan drug status. And what do you perceive the benefits to orphan drug status is?
Well, an orphan drug status is a great idea for this type of initial indication, right? So if the first indication we're going after is aplastic anemia, which is falls definitely under the orphan drug status by the FDA. You have to have fewer than 200,000 cases active. So this falls under that, which is very nice. But there's also some advantages beyond that I think getting orphan drug status. There are several drugs on the market that have orphan drug status. So as long as it's the nice thing about it is you have exclusive marketing rights. So for 7 years after approval, nobody can market the same drug for the same uh, indication. So that's very useful. There's a big tax benefit too. You get, I think it's a 50% tax benefit from an orphan drug, and the application process is different than the IND and the clinical trial process. It's a separate process, but definitely worth doing, and it gives also a lot of I don't know, status to the company that they're working on an orphan drug and that they have approval by the FDA.
Yeah, so I think we've started reviewing the paperwork and collecting what we need or perceive that we need to move things forward in the orphan drug area. I think once we've gotten some more money raised, because that's going to be separate from the actual clinical trial itself, then we can bring people in to actually put together the application and get that filed. And I think having a drug that's in phase 1 clinical trials, I believe it's all very positive for the future for the company. Now, in the short term, may be a little painful because we have to raise the money, and not always at this stage getting into the clinic is a little more costly than once you get into the clinic and have things rolling down the road. And by that I mean you're actually, once you're in phase 1, getting interest from larger biotech and big pharma companies that would like to participate in our market. So that gives us the opportunity to, at that point, structure some kind of either joint venture or other type of transaction that would be financially beneficial to the company. So I think that the key thing is to get it into clinical phase 1, and then we move along that way on down the road to finishing that up and looking forward to doing phase 2. Now, is there a medium point between clinical phase 1 and clinical phase 2? Is there a 1A or 1, 2?
1B, yeah, you can do a 1B, 2A clinical trial. It depends on what the FDA allows you to do. I think in this case we will very likely be able to do that because it's an autologous therapy, so it's not being manipulated the way genetically manipulated. So it very likely will be able to get that designation.
Okay, that's good. Now, I've gotten some questions regarding the finance and the structure of the financial deals that we're currently doing. I know that we had started down the path of the Reg A offering, and then we had to withdraw the Reg A offering. And that was simply a function of the fact that we believed that we were entitled to withdraw from being a fully reporting company with the SEC. And they came back and told us that, no, we had an outstanding registration statement on file that we hadn't withdrawn, and that we would have to make the company current. Well, if you go through the time and expense of making the company current, there's no reason to be going to a lesser reporting environment. So I decided, because I was the one that put up the money for it, which was somewhere around $300,000 to get the whole thing current from soup to nuts. Well, you spend 300 grand, you're not looking at being able to recoup anything by filing the Form 15, which would allow us to go back now to non-reporting status or alternate reporting status on the OTC markets. We have a lot more avenues open and available to us. And I think that makes it very exciting. We're looking forward to moving things forward. Um, we've had quite a bit of volume in the stock as of late, and some of that is due to I believe, one particular note holder that had a convertible note from years ago that is converting and selling as quickly as he can, which I don't have any control over that. It's his money, he's entitled to it, um, and it is what it is. So far, he hasn't been completely deleterious to the stock, which is good. And hopefully he gets out of his position fairly soon. Let's see. Science. Okay, somebody asked if we had been changing course on both the science and the financing. Not particularly. The Heme Accelerate is the most mature piece of intellectual property that we have. And having cleared an IND, which all the rest of the intellectual property that we possess will have to do at some point, I don't see us shifting gears and moving science around. The financing, so that's a function of really what's available to us out there. And the current environment is that we have attracted all kinds of interest from people that are focused on wanting to get involved with Regen. In fact, even on the previous Reg A, we'd raised quite a bit of what I consider to be quite a bit of money, and we had to send it all back when we went through the Reg A. So that was unfortunate. But now we have a clean Reg A that we're in the process of getting an attorney's opinion letter on and getting that thing filed probably, we're hoping, within the next week or so. And we believe that we've got a fund that is interested in participating to the tune of $100,000 potentially a week in purchases in our Reg A, which, long story short, that starts giving us a war chest to get through phase one happily. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to see that the things seem to be coming together. It also means that all this stuff that you perceive, you as being the shareholders perceive as being negative from the standpoint of the types of financings available, the Reg A will certainly allow us to, I think, pay off those notes and get us out from underneath the debt that we've accumulated. Let's see. So, yeah, one question here that I received was that it appeared that we had $300,000 to $400,000 worth of interest in the company, and that was quite a while back. And why do we shift gears and go to toxic funding? Well, that kind of an extension of what I just covered, in as much as we had to withdraw the Reg A and start over from square one, return all the money, and then get back on track with bringing in fresh capital for the Reg A, which I think we've addressed both of those concerns and should be able to finalize something in the near term. Let's see. Okay, so another person has said they've lost about 90% of their original investment. Now, whether that's all due to market conditions, excuse me, got a little bit of a cold, or whether it's due to it's an unfortunate situation when they bought 2i and ended up seeing the stock go down. The fact that this heme accelerate, once we get clinical data on it, can be used for treating chemotherapy patients and their side effects. So that being said, that market is approximately, well, it's over $1 billion a year in revenue. So whatever we got right now, that would be like dumping jet fuel on a bonfire. $1 billion a year in revenues, I think would be pretty satisfying once we can hit those. Is that fairly accurate, Harry? Oh, you still got us on mute.
Yeah, it certainly relaxed me.
Okay. So let's see. Time to apply for orphan drug status. How long do you think it takes us to complete that process?
I don't know. To actually the submission. I mean, if you have all the data, and if we have enough clinical data to support it, then we can submit it pretty quickly. But the review takes time at the FDA. It's not like an IND where they guarantee within 30 days. So I don't know the answer, especially now with the changes going on at the FDA. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Let's see. I think I've covered all the questions that I received from shareholders to this point. I think, Anna, I'd like to open it up to questions we've gotten from shareholders, because I'd like to make sure we get those covered. I know we've been running short the last time we were doing it. We had more questions than time.
Yeah, thank you, David. You did answer a lot of these questions already. So if I do ask a few of them and they seem redundant, feel free to either answer again or we'll move on to the next one. We can start with the question, does Regen own all the patents for Hema Accelerate?
Harry?
Yes, all the IP is held by Regen.
Okay. So
Great.
the goal there, we want to make sure that anytime that we get involved with developing a drug, we own the patents, because we don't want to be in a position of depending on a relationship with a third party that we don't have any control over.
Absolutely, makes sense. A question about shareholders. Where can shareholders view the results provided by contract research organizations from test for Durocar and Hema Accelerate?
I'm sorry, I didn't mute my phone before I got on the line here. I didn't hear the question.
They're asking, where can shareholders view the results provided by contract research organizations from test for Durocar and Hema Accelerate?
Those are typically given. They're always given to the biotech company. The biotech company then analyzes them and releases the data at the appropriate time. And the appropriate time can either be is often a scientific conference like the ASCO meetings, when new clinical trials results are often given out, and via press release. But the CROs or the CDMOs don't. They only give the data to the biotech company that's paying for the research.
Basically, it's a situation where you don't want to give your secret recipe out to the public just to get information out there. It's very well controlled.
Of course. Question Rachel asks about an update when it comes to the FDA IND applications that were submitted for T cell vax and D cell vax in 2016.
Well, I think where we're sitting right now is that we're focused on the heme accelerate because that's already passed or cleared the FDA on its IND. We perceive that any kind of revenue or benefit that we receive as a result of that progressing forward will help not only continue to finance that research, but will also finance the research in the other areas as well.
Jim asks, is there a time frame to sign a contract for phase 1 clinical trials?
Well, I think if you're asking in terms of is there a time frame with the FDA, or is there a time limit with the FDA, or is there a time frame that we're looking at? From our standpoint, we believe that we're going to get this thing started in the second half of the year, which I know we're into the second half of the year right now. And so we believe we'll at least initiate the phase 1, not necessarily all of it in terms of full-blown research. You have to put together your pool of potential patients that you're going to treat, and all those sorts of things take time to assemble. But the overall, once we've started it, it should take about 12 to 14 months to complete.
And Trevor asks, while the Reg A is being looked over by the SEC, is it possible that phase 1 clinical trials can be initiated before qualification can be determined?
Yeah, it won't take, the Reg A won't take very long, we believe, to clear, but that's in the meantime why I brought in the other money from some of these notes, is that we can get started before we have to worry about a registration statement clearing or a Reg A clearing.
And if all goes exactly as planned, what would be the estimated time frame for DuraCar to be in phase 3 clinical trials? And the viewer thinks you are waiting for a response back from your auditor, if you can address those.
I don't know what the auditor has to do with the response on DuraCar.
Well, let's start with the DuraCar question.
Okay. So the DuraCar, I think as I previously mentioned, we're focused on heme accelerate right now. Everything else is like slotted down from that. You know, when you've got enough money to bake one loaf of bread, it doesn't make sense to put 6 in the oven. We have a war chest of IP. Now we need a war chest of cash. So that's why going to the most advanced therapy that we have, which is heme accelerate, makes the most sense to us, as opposed to getting 3 or 4 different things going all at once.
Makes sense. And do you have an update with your auditor?
Oh, the auditor. Yeah, so we have a new auditor, and he already has been providing financials for us. So I think that everything seems to be moving along smoothly finally. The situation we had before, where our previous auditor was banned from practicing with the PCAOB, put us in a very, very difficult position, because we had to come back and and have financials from previous years re-audited. And that's where you get into a lot of time, energy, and money, which I was more than happy to pay for out of my own pocket. I don't know if I was happy to pay for it, but I did pay for it out of my own pocket, because what we have as a company is so dynamic that it's worth making sure that we get all the way through the project. So it's a convoluted answer, but yes, we have a new auditor.
Ronald asks, with the current administration, how do you get around the fact that they're not funding biotech companies? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think we were ever dependent upon the current administration to fund our company. That's where the thing with people wanting grants and applying for grants and then being rejected because the government's decided not to fund that particular area. Well, I may not agree with that attitude, because I think, being in the biotech arena, we all see the different contributions that we're making. And it seems like it's very sad to shut down a particular segment of it. But that being said, the way we've structured things is we're going to move forward with or without government funding.
And Shemraz asks if you can give a clear timeline on when RGBP expects to move from preclinical announcements into FDA milestones and revenue generating stages.
Well, I would say that there'll be all kinds of milestones that we're going to be able to go over, but that's going to happen long before we get into generating revenue from sales. Clearing phase 1 is just one of 3 phases that we have to clear. So once we clear phase 1, we will attract interest, and we will probably attract capital opportunities from large biopharma companies and large big pharma companies. But that's not necessarily going to be classified as revenue. That could be co-development or a number of other things. But in terms of sales itself, you won't see sales until you clear phase 3.
And I see we have a few more questions coming in about Hema Accelerate. Management has cited $500,000 phase 1 trial budget, chosen a specific CRO without much explanation. So what diligence was done in selecting this CRO, and how do you justify such a low cost estimate with comparable phase 1 stem cell trials typically running in the millions?
Gary, would you like to take that?
Sure. So we interviewed, I don't know if it was 10 or 12 different CROs, and we had a range of budgets from them. And sure, I mean, the range was 500 and change up to, I don't know, 3 million or something like that. But what was interesting was that the much larger CROs, which were far more expensive quotes, were essentially uninterested in such a relatively small company like Regen. And so it was clear that we weren't going to get the A team, we weren't going to get the B team at these. These companies have 20,000 employees, so we were going to get the C team. So obviously we don't want to spend more and get the C team. But we chose a very, very good CRO with a good track record. One reason that it can be done relatively cheaply is because we have a low number of patients. So phase 1 trials, the one typical way of thinking about it is cost per patient. So if you're talking about $500,000 and we're going to run 10 patients through it, so at $50,000 a patient, that's it's kind of average for a cell therapy clinical trial. Now it's an autologous therapy, so that's why it's relatively lower on the lower mid lower end, but there are plenty of cancer trials that are $100,000, $200,000 per patient. So I would say I'm not shocked that the price came in the way it is, and I don't think it reflects a El Cheapo clinical research organization at all. The one we spoke with and we are happy with is excellent.
Perfect.
Long short of it is that the fact that we're working on phase one. Phase one is basically to identify whether or not the therapy kills you. That's the FDA's primary concern in phase one. Now, given that we've already discussed that we're manipulating the body's own tissue that we're deriving, it's not likely that anything we do, unless we put something like strychnine in the sample, is going to kill you. So the goal here, and the goal of the CRO, is that you take something that has very little risk factor to it, you move it through phase one, and it doesn't cost that much to do. It doesn't cost that much to do unless you got to think that $550,000 isn't cheap. But the reality is that it is cheap compared to complex cell-related manipulations. So it's just the dynamic of the area we operate in.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for clarifying that. And we are out of time. We do have more questions for you, so we'll send you the questions you can answer on your own. But thank you for this thorough and transparent presentation and Q&A. We always appreciate you guys being on here.
Well, I'm just anxious to be as transparent as possible.
Well, it's appreciated. Thank you, guys. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully next month again.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll be right back with our next presenter.